Monday, November the 4th, we are in a new cycle. So if you hadn't heard or if you hadn't watched our new video on Facebook, just know that we're back to Olympic weightlifting movements, where the goal by the end of the cycle is to find a new 1 rep max squat clean and split jerk on Fridays, and squat snatch on Mondays. So I've actually had people ask why we snatch on Mondays, and generally speaking, it hasn't always been that way. But what we've found is that, believe it or not, the snatch is probably, of the two movements, the one that requires more work, and we just happen to have bigger classes on Mondays. We in fact have more classes on Mondays because of the 6:30 p.m. class. So it's been working for us, so we're not going to change it. So we're snatching this cycle on Mondays, and the thing that we're going to change is that we're not going to mix and match the complexes. We're going to do the same complex every Monday in the hopes that getting better at that complex makes you better at dialing in that complex makes you better at the thing we're trying to get better at. And it just so happens that the snatch of the two movements, between clean and jerks and snatching, this is the one where the complex is going to include the thing that you're trying to max out at the end of the cycle. So the complex today is a power snatch followed by a squat snatch. And most people will be limited by what they can receive as a squat. And this is a complex where, there's no putting the barbell down and picking a new one up. There's no switching plates in between movements. You have to be able to power snatch it. And it doesn't need to be like a touch and go thing, but it also can't be switch barbells. So it's a power snatch followed immediately by a squat snatch, and that's it. And today, in week 1, we will ramp that complex. Simple enough, right? And we'll just see how far it can go. Now, eventually, it's going to be like the tempo back squats, in that eventually when we take off the training wheels, or when we take off the limitation of having to do that power snatch first, the hope is that we will have built up strength through volume. That's the hope. And through repetition, of course. So going from something simple, we think is simple, to a WOD that is also relatively simple to explain, maybe some quirks in it that you need to think about, and that's why I'm here. So we have a typical format today for an intense CrossFit workout. And so it's 21, 15, 9, and it's a couplet in the same way that Fran's a couplet. So it's the same rep scheme as Fran, just two completely different movements. Although not really, because one of them is a barbell movement and one of them is a more dynamic up and down movement. So there's no gymnastics involved, but the two movements today are a wall ball and a power snatch. So there's a 14-minute cap today, and that's important. It's always important to understand, it's important to understand when the idea is definitely to finish, and then know where the cap is so that I understand what I have to do to get there. Sometimes the idea is not to finish. Today is not one of those days. We haven't done one of those really recently. So the idea is to put up a really fast time, and the question is, how are you going to get there? We're going to say no heavier than 95, 65 on the barbell today. And what we want you to read into that is that you should have the ability to, or not be worried about your ability to, touch and go, cycle that power snatch for big sets. Am I saying unbroken sets? No, definitely not. And at the end of the day, in a way that 45 pull-ups would seem like a lot to us, like how Fran is, we don't think 45 power snatches at this weight should be too much, right? It shouldn't be too much volume for you. The emphasis should be on speed and cycling and not necessarily on load. Many of you are going to find some sort of crossroads where it's challenging volume and a challenging loading, but also not so challenging that you won't finish the WOD. The other movement, we actually start this workout on wall balls. And that's a movement that by now, 45 is not a lot, right? We almost always try to trick you into doing Karen in the middle of a workout, which means we're looking at big sets on the wall ball today. We're looking at big, possibly unbroken sets. And if I may add, we're going to add a little bonus challenge. We think that today, because of the small volume of a movement we've gotten very good at, wall balls, we feel like that volume tells us you could probably go heavier on the wall ball. Now, you don't just arbitrarily pick up a heavier wall ball because I'm telling you to. You need to still be able to achieve depth. You need to still be able to achieve a proud chest and just generally good technique. And if you can't, then you don't pick a heavier wall ball than what you're used to. So if I were to add any additional challenges than to just, hey, make sure you finish this workout today, it would be try to go with a heavier wall ball that does not need to be unbroken, but still be sets of at least like 5 to 7 every time. And then also see how long you can hold on to that barbell for. And if you do those two things, or if you just try to find ways to speed it up and get done really quickly, then I promise this will have been a very worthwhile challenge for you, especially on a Monday when we're used to high intensity. All right. My time is 7:48. I did use a 30-pound wall ball. Generally speaking, I'm not going unbroken all the time, but if I were to go back in my notes and try to get a better time next time, it would be spend less time transitioning. Trust that I have the fitness to be able to pick that thing up, whatever it is, and knock out big sets, even if I'm tired, even if it's a Monday, even if I had a rough weekend. All right, guys, enjoy.